Good morning, afternoon, evening, wherever you may be in the world as y'all checking in. I'm going to get my comments, get my link pinned here as everybody checks in. Y'all can shout yourselves out in the comment section. We're going to get started in about 2 minutes. It might be less than that. We'll see. As y'all are checking in, though, shout yourselves out in the comment section. We're going to get into it. We're getting started in... There we go. So my comment is pinned. We're getting started in about 30 seconds, 30 to 60 seconds. Hope everybody's doing good, having a good day. Good start to your week. Hope everybody had a good weekend. I'm just going to give people a little bit of time to get into this. Then we're going to get into it. Usually people start coming in once I actually have started in the material. I ain't going to wait that long, but we'll get into it. Hope everybody's doing well. Shout yourselves out. Tell me your name and location in the comment section. We're going to get to it in 1 second. I just got done fleshing out a whole bunch of material that's going to go on my Work on Your Game masterclass. Some of y'all call that show a podcast. Mine is not a podcast. Mine's a masterclass, but I just fleshed out a bunch of material for that. That show comes out every single day. So, I mean, you gotta keep fleshing it out. You're going to keep banging them out. But anyway, let me get it to introducing myself. Then we're going to get into the topic here. For those of you who are unfamiliar with me, my name is Dre Baldwin. Many know me as Dre all day. I'm a former 9-year pro athlete. I'm the author of 31 publications, including my book, which is called literally Work on Your Game. Also the third day, those red books you see right there, the Mirror of Motivation. Y'all see my advertisements for that here on Instagram. It might be how you found me in the first place. What's up, B from Ann Arbor? And I created this whole brand, this whole platform, this whole philosophy and framework that is called Work on Your Game. It's all about taking the tools and the attributes and the strategies and the skills necessary to succeed in the sports world and taking those same tools and applying them to everyday work and everyday life in the business world and for anyone. Doesn't matter what it is that you do for a living. And what we're going to talk about here today, as I already told y'all, we're going to talk about being right versus being accurate. And many of you might think that those are the same thing, but they are actually not the same thing. And if you get this wrong, if you get this equation incorrect, being right versus being accurate, you could be a very hardworking person with positive intentions and think that you have everything, going in the direction that you wanted to go, and you actually end up in the exact opposite spot than where you want to be. So you really need to understand the difference between these two things, and I'm going to make that clear here today. What's up, Nori Vass? What's up, Ricardo? Checking in from Beverly Hills. So let's get straight to it. So this is something that I talked about on my podcast. My podcast is called Work on Your Game. Y'all can find it by going to workonyourgamepodcast.com, workonyourgamepodcast.com, or just look it up on your favorite app, Spotify, SoundCloud, YouTube. YouTube episodes come out later, like several weeks after the audio episodes. So I would suggest Work on Your Game podcast audio apps. But on episodes 2154, episodes 2113, I talked about accurate formulas. I talked about the skill of accurate thinking. And a lot of people never even think about this because it never occurs to them that there's a difference between these two. So I want to make sure people don't misconstrue these two. So let's get right into it. All right. The first thing you got to understand, when I say being right versus being accurate, understand what I mean here. When someone's trying to be right, when you're trying to be right, R-I-G-H-T, that means you're trying to prove yourself correct. That means you have an opinion, you have a view, you have a perspective, you have a point of view that you want to prove that is correct. And when you're trying to prove that your idea or your opinion or your point of view is the prevailing perspective, what's happening here is if this is your point in any situation, you're not thinking accurately in that moment, because an accurate thought doesn't have to be anybody's, whether it's your opinion or somebody else's opinion. Accurate is accurate. All right. What is correct is correct. It has nothing to do with who it came from, who said it, what they believe in, what they said 2 days ago, what they're going to say a day from now, how you feel about them. When you're trying to prove yourself correct, then you're trying to make it about you rather than making it about what's actually going to work. And that's why this is so important. And that's why these are two completely different things. So that's not accurate thinking when you're trying to prove yourself right. What's going on, Prince Annie Biet? The thing is this. The only way to think accurately and to be right at the same time is when you defer to what is accurate. Let me say that again and I'll explain what I mean. The only way to prove yourself right and think accurately at the same time is when the number one thing in the hierarchy is what is accurate. And then you decide that you are going to basically make your opinion subservient to what's accurate. Does that make sense to everybody? So if you know that what's accurate is this thing, you put this number one on the list, now your opinions are just following behind the leader, which is what's accurate. And the thing is, what many people do in life, especially when they get into an emotionally charged situation, and you all are on social media right now. So on social media, you see this all the time. Maybe not so much on an Instagram, but you get on the app like YouTube, depending on what videos you're watching. Twitter specifically, that happens a lot on Twitter, is that people decide what their opinion is going to be, and then they put their opinion number one on the list, and then they try to find something that's accurate that supports the opinion. This is an inaccurate formula. It's an inaccurate formula when your opinion goes first in line, and then you try to find points that support the opinion. The more accurate way of looking at things is find what's accurate, and then your opinions support the accurate point. All right, this is why there are two different things. And many people, again, on many things, most people can look at this and they can understand it and they can agree and they say, yeah, that makes sense on many points. But on a point in which people get emotionally charged up, that could be any kind of topic. It could be something about politics, about climate change, about gender stuff that people are talking about these days. Now, all kinds of things that people get in heated discussions and debates about. They can't do those things. Yes, accurate is objective, Nori. We're going to get to that in a minute, so I'm glad you asked. So we're going to get to that in a second. The thing is, when people are trying to prove themselves and they have their ego out in front, that's when they lose track of accuracy and they start focusing on their ego instead, their opinions, their point of view, their perspective, and trying to prove themselves right. And this is why you have to be very wary of this, because every human being is susceptible to it, because we all have egos. We all have a point of view. We all have plenty of opinions. So that's why you got to be very careful when you're careful about what you're putting first in the hierarchy between what's right and what is accurate. And right, again, I'm talking about proving yourself right, not what is right, like morally right. So that's the first point that I'm making here. Okay, everybody follow me so far, and I'm gonna explain this even deeper. I'm only on the first point. The only way to think accurately is defer to accuracy first, express that, and then your opinions go behind it. Not because, and understand something, that being right in any situation has nothing to do with your job title. Just because you're the owner of a company, if your assistant has an idea or a point of view that can get you to the outcome better than your idea or your point of view, as the boss, you had to be mature enough to say, you know what, I am the boss and we got different opinions, but if your opinion can get us better to the outcome, then we got to go with your opinion. A good boss can do that. Bad boss can't do that. Any of you growing up as a kid, your parents might have told you to do something and you might have thought that wasn't the best thing to do. You might have thought you had a better idea, and you say to your parent, well, why can't we do it this way? And your parent will say something like, well, because I said so, because they were the boss. That's an inaccurate formula. Now, depending on household you grow up in, I'm not telling you to go say that to your parents, because you might get grounded, you might get smacked upside your head, or whatever the case may be. But understand, this is an inaccurate way of looking at things, so you have to know. You got to be mature enough to understand, all right, this is what I'm working with, and you got to be open-minded enough to see that what you think is right might not actually be the best way of getting things done. You might think it's right, but it might not be the best, and that's why accurate matters. That's why that word matters so much, and we're going to get to that again in a second. I'll tell you something that I do. Whenever I bring a new staff person on to work with me, I always show them how we do things. I say, all right, whatever their job is, all right, this is what you're going to do. This is how you do this. Here's how you post this. Here's how you do this operation. Here's how you follow this procedure. And I always say to them, listen, this is the way that we do things now, but I didn't hire you to be a robot. I didn't hire you to be an automaton, because I could get some software to do that. If you see a way that we can do this better, you see a way we can do it differently, you see a way we can do it more efficiently, a way that saves us time, saves us money, makes us money, produces a better result than what we're trying to get right now, and I always explain the why behind the what, then I want to know about it. If you know a way we can do this process better, that will produce better results, and I tell them what better means, you got to define these terms, then I want to know about it. So do not think that just because I'm the boss that you got to do the things the way that I say it. If you know a way to do it differently that produces a result, let's do it your way. And as the person in charge, you got to be willing to say that. You got to be willing to see that, and you got to be objective enough to understand that. So that's what we're talking about here when we're talking about being right versus being accurate. So your job title, your status, or whatever other advantage you have over whoever you're talking to does not mean that whatever you say must go, and this just overpowers any kind of logic, reason, objectivity, or the results that you're trying to achieve. When you're accurate, you don't need to be right. Everybody follow me? When you're accurate, you don't need to be right because accuracy speaks for itself. Let's get on to the second point where I can get into what someone asked me in the comment there in a second. Let's get the definition of what accurate means. We're talking about here being right versus being accurate. Definition of accurate is, quote, correct in all details and being exact. It also means capable of or successful in reaching the intended target. That's what accurate means. Let me say it again. Capable or successful in reaching the intended target. So what is the intended target? That's what I was just talking about. When I bring a new person on, I tell them what the intended outcome is. This is why you're doing this. Here's why we take each one of these steps in the process. And if you know a way that we could do any of these steps or the overall process better, i.e., it can reach the intended target more accurately, more often, or faster, then I want to know about it so that we'll change our whole process to go do it your way, because the outcome has nothing to do with it needs to be my way. The outcome is about, do we achieve the outcome? Do we achieve the result that we're trying to get to? That's the North Star. The North Star is not what I think or what the boss thinks or what this person thinks or what you think or what they think. The North Star is what produces the result. Because any of you who follow my work, you know that I say this all the time. You are in a performance and a results-based business. This is not an opinion-based business. This is not a who's the boss-based business. This is not a point of view-based business. This is not a what group you identify with based business. This is a results-based business. So whatever produces the result, that's what we need to be focused on. So it's not about certain views. And these days, again, all of you are on social media. So you see the social commentary that people talk about these days, and they argue about this thing, or we should do it this way because this happened, and we should do it this way because these people and that people, and this happened in the past, and this is happening right now, and that's going to happen in the future. The way we can resolve all of this, and this is not humanly possible, but the way we could resolve it in an ideal situation is just that if everybody would just look at the results. If we could just look at the black and white facts and results of how every policy and every idea and every new wave of thinking, what kind of outcomes did they produce, we could clearly see, okay, that worked, that didn't work, this is working, this is not working, all right, you were wrong, you were right, you were wrong, you were wrong, you were wrong, and we get rid of all the people who are wrong and just focus on what was right, and it has nothing to do with the people. See, this is the thing. It has everything to do with what actually produces the result. So we just focus on what is accurate and what, again, the definition of accurate, capable of or successful in reaching the intended target. It's not about who said it. It's not about where they're from. It's not about what other opinions they had. It's not about what their job title is or their status in any area of life. It's about what produces the intended result. Correct in detail, successful in reaching the intended target. That is what's accurate. So, being accurate is about having a perspective, approach, a system, and a process that reaches the intended target. Now, by deductive reasoning, let's be clear. You can't reach an intended target if you don't have a target. So what is your target? Entrepreneurs out there, business people out there, athletes out there, students out there, all of you out there, do you have intended targets? When you show up to work on a day-to-day basis, I'm recording this on a Monday for anybody watching this on replay. If you show up to work on Monday, do you have an intended target? Do you know what your goal is? By the end of the workday today, you want to have achieved 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. What did you need to get done today? Do you know what your intended targets are? At the end of the workday today, when you clock out or you close your laptop or you leave the office or whatever the situation is, do you have a list that you can check off and say, okay, these are the things I needed to get done today. I did that, this one. I got a pause connection there. All right. I did this one I did half of, this one I got to move till next week, this one I'm going to cancel out. I don't need to do that anymore because I got this done. Do you know what that is? Do you even have a list where you can say, I accurately got this, and these things done? A lot of entrepreneurs have no lists. A lot of entrepreneurs just show up every day and they just turn their computer and they just start doing stuff. A lot of athletes show up to the gym and they just start randomly doing stuff. And a lot of people, then they come to me and they say, well, Dre, I don't have a plan. I don't have a process for what I'm doing. I'm working hard every day. I'm doing these things, but I don't have a way of making sure that I'm getting this thing done. And then they'll say something like, well, I want to have a plan. I want to have a process. I'll say, okay, how long have you had this challenge? They'll say, oh, I had this challenge for the last 3 years, as long as I've been an entrepreneur. And I say, okay, well, it's been 3 years. You're just talking to me today. So what have you tried in the last 3 years? Have you come up with a plan? Have you made a process? Have you even tried to create a strategy? And the answer is crickets. They don't have one. Many people, And I'm just using entrepreneurs as an example because I got an event coming up for entrepreneurs right there, Work on Your Game Live, starting next Thursday. But many people go through their entire lives never operating by a strategy, a plan, or a process. They just randomly do stuff. They work really hard at randomly doing stuff. And because they want it, they have the desire. Because they work hard, a lot of effort, and because they maybe see other people doing it, this level of belief that they have, they think that that's enough to achieve an outcome. But time and results have told them that it's not. So this is where you have to be accurate in seeing, okay, what I've been doing is not working, so let's find out what actually does work. Again, this is where we get being right versus being accurate. So I talk to entrepreneurs all the time. I have a mastermind where I talk to entrepreneurs. I work with entrepreneurs one-on-one. I got an event coming up where I'm be dealing with entrepreneurs. Many of you who are watching this are entrepreneurs. And I get the emails and texts from them every single day. And the thing is, many entrepreneurs, believe it or not, even when we have these kind of conversations that I'm explaining to you right here, and I start to point out to them, listen, what you've been doing is not working. I might not say it in so many words. I may point it out in a different way, but I'm showing them what you're doing is not working. We need to do something that will actually produce the result that you say you want. Many people, this can be an entrepreneur, athlete, anybody, many people would rather keep doing the thing that doesn't work because it's their idea than do the thing that does work because it's not their idea. And this is the very thing that holds a lot of people back in life. They would rather fail doing things their way than succeed doing things in a way that comes from anybody other than them. Why? Because people have their ego out in front. This is what causes a lot of people to fail in life. That they are more focused on their ego than they're focused on the outcome. And sometimes the outcome means you need to suppress your ego. Are you willing to do that? That's the question. That's an open question I got for everybody in here. Are you willing to suppress your ego in order to achieve the outcome? There are people out there who would rather lose and do things their way than succeed by doing things somebody else's way. That's ego. And this is the difference between being right and being accurate. Being right means, all right, my ego is out in front. Whatever I want, we got to do it that way. Being accurate is, okay, this is what works. So let me put my opinion to the side because it's complete conflict with what actually works. Let's do that so that we can get the outcome. That's the important thing that y'all got to understand. So by deductive reasoning, you first of all have to have an intended target. So everyone who's listening, whether you're watching replay or whatever, you must have an intended target. You cannot be accurate if you do not have a goal. So there's no way to be accurate without an intended target because that's part of the definition. Accurate means it's successful in reaching the intended target. So if you don't have a target, you can't be accurate. It's impossible. Everybody follow me here. So what is your goal? What is the outcome that you are after? So we all clear on that. Whatever you're dealing with, whoever you're dealing with, there has to be an agreed upon target. So if you're working with a team, it could be two people. It could be you and your husband, you and your wife, you and your kids, you and your business partner. That's a team. You and 300 other people is a team. 15 people on a basketball team, 100 people on a football team. That's a team. Everybody got to be clear on what the outcome is. What is the goal here that we are all after? And if everybody's not on the same page as far as what the goal is, then it's going to be really hard for that team to be successful because everyone's on a different page. Y'all might not even be in the same book, not even in the same library, if you get what I'm saying. So y'all got to be on the same page here. When two people are arguing, often the point is not that they can't agree on what the outcome is because they can't even agree on what they're talking about. You're talking about two different things. Neither one of you can be accurate if you can't agree on what the outcome is. This is usually how arguments start and they continue in the first place, is that one person's talking about one thing, you're talking about another thing, and we're both trying to get our point across and we can't even agree on what the intended target is. So accuracy is impossible without a target. All right, now I said that 4 times already. Your intended target is the baseline, is the North Star, is the bullseye of your thinking. With no target, there's no accuracy. Point number 3. We're talking here today about being right versus being accurate. So what is the key here to prioritizing being accurate over being right? Does anybody know the answer? What's the key to prioritizing being accurate? I'm going to see if anybody knows the answer. So I'm going to say the question one more time. Somebody post it in the comments. What is the key to being accurate over being right? That's what we're talking about here today. Does anybody know the key to solving this conundrum right here? You're trying to be right, but instead you want to be accurate. What do you need to do? There is one simple thing that you can do that will make you be more accurate than being right. Nora, you got it right. She's the first one with the comment, and you had already asked it. The answer is suppressing your ego, putting your ego to the side. In other words, getting your ego out of the way. And objectivity, getting your ego out of the way, being accurate, they are all different sides of the same coin, so to speak. If any of you is in a relationship, you know. All right, how does a relationship, not a relationship, but an argument. Any of you ever been in an argument? How do you end an argument? The only way to end an argument is one person got to stop arguing. If one person stops arguing, the argument's over. All right, one person can't argue by themselves. So if you're in an argument with another person and you stop pushing back, then the argument's over, because the other person can't keep arguing. There ain't nobody to argue with. It takes two to tango. All right, the only way that you can be accurate in any situation is you got to push your ego out of the way. Stop trying to be right. Stop trying to prove your point, because we all know the saying: a man convinced against his will is of the same opinion still. I have never seen, and any of you can tell me if you ever seen this, I've never seen a person change another person's mind by arguing with them. I've never seen a Democrat turn somebody into a Republican by telling them why they're wrong for being a Republican. I've never seen a Republican turn somebody Democrat. I've never seen it happen. But I see people argue about it all day, every day. I've never seen it. You will never change someone's point of view or their opinion by arguing with them. Now, you could get someone to possibly change the way that they think on their own volition by showing them what's accurate. But they had to do it on their own. You cannot make them do it. You can't force someone to change the way that they think. And the more you try, the more they're going to resist, and the more they're going to push back on you, and the stronger they're going to feel about how they felt before they showed up, even if you think they're wrong and you feel like you can, quote unquote, prove it. Getting your ego out of the way is the most important thing you can do to be an accurate thinker. This is the most important aspect of accuracy. When you try to defend yourself and prove yourself right, all right, that's when you're pushing yourself further and further away from being accurate. And I'll address all questions and comments at the end of this, when I get to the end of this point. And I'm going to throw a side note out here for all the males out there, especially those of you who are attracted to females. You get in a relationship with a female, all right, do not use the phrase accurate thinking when you're in a disagreement with a female. It's probably not going to work. All you got to do is just stop arguing. All right. So don't say, well, hey, we're not being accurate here. Don't do that. That's not going to work. Just stop arguing. All right. You stop pushing back, the argument's over. The only time there's an argument is when both people are pushing against each other. If one person stops pushing, then the argument's over. All right. Because they don't have nothing to push against. They have nothing to fight against. The argument's over. And this is with anyone that you deal with anywhere in life. So you got to be willing to put your ego aside. And this is especially important in entrepreneurship, because as entrepreneurs, we come up with ideas, right? That's one of the biggest challenges in being an entrepreneur, is that we have all these ideas, but we have a limited amount of time. So you can't execute on every idea, and you probably don't want to execute on every idea, because you can't serve all these different people and be good at all these different things at the same time. You cannot be great at more than one thing at once. Even within the same sphere, you got to decide, all right, what am I going to focus on here? Do I want to serve some basketball players? Do I want to help some finance people? Do I want to help people who want to learn how to use a phone? Do I want to help people become professional speakers? What do you want to do? Now, you got to decide where you're going to focus, because you got to put enough of your attention and energy into that space to get really good at it, and so that people understand that's the thing that you're doing, so that they can finally come around to your world and get whatever it is that you're offering. So for entrepreneurs, the reason why ego is such a challenge is because everything that we do is based on some idea that we came up with. It doesn't mean you created the industry, but you came up with the idea that I'm going to get into this industry. So if somebody like me comes around and says, well, you probably should not get in that industry because, and I give you some reasons why it's not a good idea, now your ego might start to be bruised. Now you might start to think, well, who is this dude to tell me that I'm wrong with this? Is my idea. This is the thing I want to do. Like, your ideas are your babies when you're an entrepreneur. So a lot of entrepreneurs have the challenge of, they take everything personal. They take every critique as a personal attack, and then their ego gets in front of them. As soon as you start taking something personal, that's your ego talking. Now you're focused on being right. And when entrepreneurs focus on being right over being accurate, they slow themselves down, and it takes them longer to get to the outcome, if they ever get to it. So as an entrepreneur, you still have to have the confidence of a teacher, but the humility of a student. And I did a whole episode of my podcast where I talked about that. I'll tell you what episode that was. Any of you want to go and listen to it. That was episode number 1415. Competence of a teacher, but the humility of a student. Meaning you are willing to listen and be coached when you might not have accurate information or accurate formulas, but at the same time, when it's time for you to deliver, you have the confidence and the competence to stand on the stage and tell people what the deal is. Everybody got it? That's the way that it works. So I'm going to recap these points and I'm going to take questions. So if anybody got a question, you can go ahead and post it in the comments here. We're talking about being right versus being accurate. We talked about, again, I talked about this in a couple episodes of my show. My show is called, all right, we got a pause connection. There it is. My show is called Work on Your Game. It's on all the audio apps, Apple, Spotify, SoundCloud. Y'all just look it up. You can find it. The 3 points. Number one, when I talk about being right, I'm referring to you trying to prove yourself correct in a conversation or trying to prove your idea or your point of view as the prevailing perspective in a situation. All right, that's how that works, and it can slow you down a lot when you're trying to prove yourself right, as opposed to point number two, being accurate. The definition of accurate means capable of or successful in reaching the intended target. That's how you know you're accurate, is when you're reaching the intended target. What is your target? Many people are out here operating every single day with no target whatsoever. You're just working and you don't even know where you're trying to get to. It's impossible to be accurate if you don't have a goal. You can't score if you don't have a basket to shoot at, right? You can't play basketball without a basket, right? So what are you actually aiming at, and what are you trying to get to? When you're accurate, or when you know what the accurate outcome is, then you can decide, okay, we should follow this path because this is going to get us to the goal. We won't follow that path because that's not going to get there, even if it's your idea. See, this requires a strength of your ego. A strong ego does not mean you defend every idea that you have. A strong ego means you know when your opinion is actually not the best one, and you can put your ego to the side. A strong ego knows when to step aside and allow somebody else's opinion or somebody else's formula or someone else's plan to be the one that we're going to work on. Why? Because that's the one that reaches the intended target. Remember that you're in a performance and a results-based business. You are not in an ego and opinion-based business. It's all about what produces the outcome. What outcome are you after? If you don't know, it is impossible to be accurate, and it doesn't matter what ideas you have. It will never, quote unquote, work because you don't know where you're trying to get to. Something cannot work or be right or be good or be better unless you have an intended target. So anytime I'm working with a business person, the first thing I want to know is what's the intended target. If we don't know what the target is, it doesn't matter what we do, because none of them will get us to an outcome because we don't have an outcome. So what is your outcome? And number three, the key to prioritizing accuracy over being right is you must put your ego to the side. A strong ego knows when to step forward and speak, and also knows when to shut the hell up and move to the background. Have the competence of a teacher with the humility of a student. You need both. And you need to know when to switch between one and the other. You are not always the person in the front of the room with all the information. Sometimes you got to be quiet and sit in the back of the room and take notes. So the same way that I come on here and I talk to you, and I'm the teacher when I'm doing these lives and when I'm doing my podcast and when I'm writing my books. At the same time, I join programs. I get coaches. I go to events and I sit in the room and I take notes. And I learn, and then I go implement what I learned. So it's not about always being a person in the front. It's not about always being a person in the back. You need to learn how to bounce between the two. If you can't do one, then you can't do the other. See, if I can't be a student, then I'm unqualified to teach. And if I can't teach, then I don't need to be a student, because what am I going to do with the information? I'm never going to use it. So you got to know how to balance between these two things. All that being said, I got a live event coming up on May 5th and 6th. It is called Work on Your Game Live. The link is right there. It's a 2-day event specifically for the entrepreneurs, thought leaders, anybody who wants to be an expert selling your intellectual property, taking the knowledge out of your head, packaging it up, and selling it in the form of things like books, courses, speaking, coaching, workshops. Keep getting this pause connection thing. Keeps coming up. But anyway, anyone who wants to do anything like that, be an expert, be a thought leader, that event is next Thursday and Friday. It's a virtual event. So you can attend the event right from home, wherever you are, as long as you got internet connection. It's a 2-day event. Of course, you'll get access to all the replays. So if you miss a day or you miss part of a day, you can catch the replays. I'll send the replays out to everybody after you have attended the event. That is specifically, again, for the thought leaders, entrepreneurs, and experts. You get your ticket by going to workonyourgame.live. You get access to all the replays and full access to me if you have a ticket to the event. You must have a ticket to the event to get access to any of the replays, any of the material. Day 1 is mindset and strategy. Day 2 is application and execution. So if you want to get better at either of those things, get your mind right around concepts like what we're talking about here and actually applying them with a strategy and a formula and an accurate process that achieves a desired outcome, a clearly, specifically defined outcome, be at Work on Your Game Live. You get your ticket by going to workonyourgame.live. That event, again, starts next Thursday. It's all day Thursday, all day Friday, 2-day event, virtual event. Of course, you get access to the replays if you happen to miss all or part of one of the days. People keep asking me that. So that is workonyourgame.live. There's also a link in my bio, by the way. So now I'm responding to comments. If somebody got a question or a comment, go ahead and post it in the comments section, and I will address if there's some good ones in here. Let's see what we got. Nori, I appreciate the comments here. Peter J, what's going on? Nori said your family is a problem. I get it. Well, y'all just family. Y'all don't have to have the same opinion, but that's how it works. Chadow Strength, what's going on? Good afternoon to you too. Let's see. Anthony says, well, what is he? Yeah, I addressed that. Nori says to use metrics to measure outcomes. Yes, that's the only way we can be accurate. We need to know, what are we measuring? What are we going after? 100% we use metrics. We lay the metrics down from the very beginning so that we all are on the same page. That's the whole point. So we're all on the same page and everybody knows what we're trying to get to, get everybody agreed upon what we're going after. Always training? No, that's not exactly what I'm talking about here today. That's the name of a book, but that's not exactly what I'm saying. Shadow, is it Chadow or Shadow? Is it Shadow? Shadow Strength? That's what you're facing right now. All right, come to Work on Your Game Live. We can get into that. We're gonna go deep into this at Work on Your Game Live. We're gonna go deep in a lot of things at Work on Your Game Live. Let's see. Nori says, how about the narcissist ego? Well, everybody's a narcissist on some level. I mean, the interesting thing about narcissism is nobody thinks they're a narcissist, but everyone accuses other people of being narcissists. But I get what you're saying. Arbino was good. Nori said, this may apply almost anywhere. How about to family? Yes, it does, but often with family, we're not talking about metrics. We're not talking about measuring things. Usually that's just a difference in opinion. If you're talking about family things, unless you're in a family business, I don't think that's what you're talking about. You're talking about like, well, you think this way and your cousin thinks that way or your mom thinks that way. Those are just arguments of opinion, and people are entitled to their opinions. The thing is, you're not going to change somebody's opinion by arguing with them. So that's the thing that I want you to, everybody has to understand. That's the mature thing to understand, is that even if you and another person disagree, y'all can talk about it. If y'all can talk about it. And what I've found is many people are incapable of having a real logical discussion with somebody with whom they disagree. That is more about trying to prove why you're right and they're wrong. But that doesn't work, because you're not going to get them to change their mind. I mean, you might feel good because you said what you want to say. You got it off your chest. But did it actually change anybody's opinion? No. So is it worth it? That's a question that only you can answer. Is it worth it to get in those conversations? There are some people out there who you can actually disagree with them opinion-wise. We're not talking about anything measurable, but just have different opinions. And y'all could talk about your opinion. You share yours, they share theirs. Y'all still disagree at the end, but you understand their point and they understand your point, and it's a civil conversation. That's a small percentage of people. Most people, you probably can't do that. So I would suggest you probably don't want to get into that. What's the point? You got to gauge. You just got to gauge what kind of person you're talking to. That's the big picture idea. Most people are not in that category, though, in my experience. So with that said, I'm going to tell y'all one more time about Work on Your Game, and while I wait and see if anybody got a question or comment. The event is workonyourgame.live. That is a 2-day event. Next Thursday, Friday, virtual event. Day 1, mindset and strategy for entrepreneurs. Day 2, application and execution for entrepreneurs. Any of you who's in the expert space, thought leadership space, you want to write books, you want to sell coaching, training, you want to do your own events, you want to make courses, you want to take the knowledge that is in your head, whether it is some experience you have, whether it's some area of life that you know a lot about, whatever, and you want to make a business out of it to where you are making enough money to at least pay your bills every month. You're not trying to be on Lifestyles of the Rich and Famous. You just want to pay your bills every month. You need to be at Work on Your Game Live. You get your ticket by going to workonyourgame.live. live. Again, that is workonyourgame.live. That link is also in my bio on Instagram. So I know you can't click on the links here, but if you just go to my bio on Instagram, you'll see that link, workonyourgame.live. All right, nobody posted a question, so we're going to wrap this one up. I will be doing more lives leading up to the event. So the rest of this week, going into next week, I will be doing more live streams. You want to be at Work on Your Game Live if you are ready to step your game up. And always training said, you missed the first or second day where you get content, you get the direct guidance, you'll get the replays. Always training, you get the replays. If you want direct guidance from me, then the next step is getting into my mastermind. So you'll get the replays to the event if you miss a day. If you want to work with me directly, then you need to join my Bulletproof Mastermind or my 3rd Day Mastermind. Those you will learn about at Work on Your Game Live. So just be at Work on Your Game Live, and we'll take it to the next step after that. So always training, answer that. Nori Vaz, Shadow Strength. Hope to see y'all at Work on Your Game Live. I'll see y'all on the next live because I'll be doing more live streams leading up to next week's event. And any of you can send me let me give you my text number, by the way. Any of you want to text me, here's my number. My text number is that number right there, 305-384-6894. Every morning, I send out a daily motivation text for free to everyone who's in my text community. That link is also in my bio. So if you just click it either says contact us or it says text me. Let me see what it says. So if you go on Instagram, you go to my bio where it says contact and that text number comes up, just send a text to that number right there. And you can text me and you'll get my daily motivation text. And that's actually my text number. So I do respond to those text messages. So you can text me at that number. If any of you have a question about anything that was not covered here, anything around the event, that is at, again, 305-384-6894. Everybody saw that number in the comment, right? So just text me right there. If you want to reach me, you also got my email address in there. That's my assistant's email, but it'll eventually work its way to me. And, of course, you got the DMs. All right, so everybody, y'all have a great rest of your Monday. Keep working on your game. Stay focused. Figure out your accurate formulas for what you're doing here. Don't just be out here working randomly, not knowing what you're doing. I got writing to do. I got a process to follow. Y'all have a good Monday. Work on your game. We out of here.